on a football field. Want a new competition, an international Super League controlled by Rupert Murdoch.
I've said I'd never go back to the ARL, and I don't think I would. I mean, I've made a decision to go with News Limited and Super League run competition. I mean, that's where I believe my future is, and that's where I think it will be. I mean,
Laurie Daly, one of over 300 Super League players trying to stay pumped up for their fate. International competition and more money than the players had ever dreamed of. It was enough to snare 50 of the best in a single weekend.
Can't wait for the game.
Never had for its survival.
For the chairman of the ARL, Ken Arthurson, and his side, it's been a battle to hold on to the game itself.
We honestly believed them when they said that they would come through the front door. They also said they'd never do anything to harm the game, and they'd never have a rebel league.
Equivalent probably to a Pearl Harbor attack. They came in the middle of the night and they came loaded with plenty of ammunition in the form of money and plenty of troops and plenty of people around the country talking to players.
And the Origin series is up.
His club is the new boss of Channel 9, James Packer, whose first big challenge is to protect his television rights to the game.
This battle is again entirely about pay TV. News Limited funded Super League in an attempt to generate rugby league for Foxtel. Optus Vision put in the majority of the ARL fighting fund to ensure that it kept rugby league on its own cable. Without pay TV, there would have been no battle. This struggle has given us a sneak preview of how careful we need to be to protect our sports and how keen the pay TV operators are to gain access to those sports.
But let me stress that our commitment to our players, their contracts, and the vision of the Super League remains rock solid.
James Packer's youthful rival, 24-year-old Lachlan Murdoch, also has been thrust into the limelight by this Super Brawl.
Super League competition will still kick off this year.
The competition between the Murdoch and Packer families is fiercer than a State of Origin match.
It's no longer the rugby league, it's the Packer league, but it's about finished. Having snared Britain's Premier Soccer and American football for his TV empire, Murdoch wanted the trifecta with rugby league. I'm an old Melbourne boy and I don't know much about rugby league, but one day the idea of a great league which would make this game, this code of football, a great international one with players all getting a lot more money, with crowds getting better games, better competitions. This is the sort of thing that pay television can do for the world.
There are people who will fight tooth and nail using every legal advice that highly paid minds can dream up to shift those subscription magnets over to pay TV. The government of the day will need to show fierce and steely determination to tell them, whatever you do, we'll outsmart you, we'll outmaneuver you, we'll change the rules wherever necessary, but Australians will continue to have access to big-time sport, all regardless of whether or not they can afford pay TV.
You've been on the inside of this fight, watching James Packer do battle with Lachlan Murdoch. Are we now seeing the third generation of these families carry on the battle?
Well, if they are, I think it's pretty clear already who the winner is, isn't it? I would have thought James is looking a little stronger right at the moment than his counterpart. Thank you very much and good morning.
It was the head of Optus Vision, Geoffrey Cousins, who bankrolled the defence of the Australian Rugby League, along with Channel 9, to protect their mutual television rights. Can you say now that Super League is dead, or do you think it's just foxing?
I said it was dead a year ago. A year ago, I said, this is a fictitious sporting event. No game of it will ever be played. I see it as a venture that was conceived in dishonesty and executed in deceit. And for that reason, it never had a hope of getting anywhere and it never will.
What made you think you had a chance against the world's most powerful media mogul?
Well, I thought it was pretty simple. It was clear to me that this was a dishonest endeavour right from the start. I mean, all these people had signed contracts. We had a contract. Now, I said Murdoch has come in like a thief in the night to steal the game, and it was quite clear, I think, that that is precisely what was going on.
Murdoch's main allies were this mob on the bikes, the Brisbane Broncos, and the leader of the pack, Broncos chairman Paul Morgan. It seems, in the view of the judge, that the Super League officials have not played by the normal rules, business rules.
Yeah, well, see, I'm in business and I think they're too honourable. I've been involved in a lot of corporate takeovers, and I think the Super League really played with a very, very straight bat.
It was your vision, it was your first move that has now divided a game that's been very united for most of this century.
Well, no, first off, no, because I think what's happened, if nothing else does take place, the administration of Rugby League are now having to look at themselves.
I'm very disappointed in their chairman, Porky Morgan. I mean, he's recently quoted the other day as saying that he was the architect of this Super League scheme. Well, if that's the case, he ought to hang his head in shame, that's all I can say.
So you won't be having Porky Morgan over for dinner?
Well, I don't think he'll be inviting me either, but I won't lose any sleep about that, and probably he won't either.
Can you shake hands with Ken Arthurson? Sit down to dinner with him?
I don't know if Ken Arthurson will shake my hand. He reckons I'm a liar, but anyhow, we'll see.
Today has seen a victory for the players and for their right to choose the conditions under which they play rugby league football.
Lachlan Murdoch would have you believe he's been fighting for the rights of the players. What's really at stake here is News Limited's investment of hundreds of millions of dollars in a competition now sin-binned by the federal court until the year 2000.
Next. Can't wait for the game.
The day or the night I went in there and signed, and Lachlan Murdoch was there, and we talked to him, and I said to him, "Are you going to make a lot of money?" And he was a bit taken back by that. And I said, "I'm not being rude, I'm just trying to tell you that unless you make money, we're not going to make money." For Lachlan and for Rupert Murdoch, it's only about money. Them.
Gillies! He's going to get number 2!
Simon Gillies says his own decision to go to the Super League is not only about money, but his deep dissatisfaction with the ARL competition.
So, you know, in terms of me saying I'll never play for them again, it's not about the money. I believe I could go back to earning $100,000. I could live on that. I don't want to go back and play for the ARL, because if the Super League movement's alive in the world, then rugby league's going to benefit out of the movement.
Don't come back. Will rugby league go on without them?
You know, when I was a young man, Jeff, when Johnny Raper was at his top, I thought that no one would replace Johnny Raper. Well, there's been plenty of Johnny Rapers since then. There's been plenty of Reg Gasniers and Clive Churchills. We've all been replaced, and as life goes on, we always will be replaced. We're not irreplaceable in this world.
Aren't there a lot of kids out there on the football fields who are being taught that there's something more than the golden trophy, that there's sportsmanship, that that's more important than the business and the rewards?
The only way I can answer that question is to say that if we don't move with the times, it'll disappear. The reality of life is that sport is business. The reality of life is if sport doesn't make money, it cannot develop its juniors.
When our sons look back at 1996, will this be the year that rugby league fell apart?
We've got to make sure it doesn't fall apart. That's what it's about. I mean, we were given this game after 87 years history. I mean, if it's destroyed with us and what's happened to this game now, I mean, we'll forever be held to blame, and those responsible will forever be held to blame. And
will the game get over it?
We won't get over it tomorrow. I mean, it's like your wife sleeping with someone else. You've still got to get it out of your head, and it's not an easy thing to do.
So if the Super League players, the top players, declare a strike, we're not going to see half of the best talent in this competition.
That's the unfortunate part about it. So that's why I'm personally hoping some sort of compromise might take place.
The other thing I want to say is that I genuinely long for the moment when we can get back to what we want most of all, a time when football is the most important thing happening in rugby league. when we argue only about which teams will win and which players are best.
So if we've failed in rugby league, we'll move on to the next sport. And the next one, and maybe we'll come back to rugby league one day soon. Or later, we'll see.
We never want to underestimate News Limited, and we certainly don't. I'm sure they're planning to kneecap us somehow late at night, right at this very moment. So I wouldn't suggest that there's still not a good fight left. I don't think it's got anything